Film noir plays an integral role in the history of American cinema. We know it well due to its stark contrasting elements from films of the classic Hollywood era, and of course, its visual and narrative tropes. Over the course of several decades, filmmakers have drawn inspiration from the noir era, and some feature films have adhered so closely to the formula of the genre that they fall into a category commonly known as modern noir. Perhaps one of the most prominent examples of this is Rian Johnson's 2005 feature, Brick. Frame by frame, Brick masterfully manages to follow the noir blueprint through the use of unbalanced framing, unconventional camera angles, and practical lighting. Practical lights are light sources visible within the frame that also function in lighting a scene. In Brick, practical lighting is evident throughout the majority, if not all, scenes of the film. Whether it be street lights, a fireplace, or simply sunlight, the use of this method avoids an aesthetic of glamour and romance. In fact, it does quite the opposite, building tension, drama, and realism. The use of practical lights has become standard amongst filmmakers, and that can be largely attributed to directors of the noir era, who captured life with all of its darkness. With regards to Brick yet again, the technique of practical lighting creates shadows. Shadows are a valuable asset because they heighten the suspense in a scene. Contrast this to the three-point system, which often eliminates shadows and keeps the audience literally and figuratively out of the dark. Brick consistently demonstrates the use of intense high and low-angle shots, a hallmark of noir filmmaking. But what does this communicate in the grand scheme of the story? It's clear that when these angles are being used in conversation, Johnson is trying to capture a dynamic between the characters in the scene. More often than not, the dynamic that is captured is one of power. An intense high angle inadvertently suggests that the subject in frame is vulnerable by making them appear small. A low angle does exactly the opposite, making the subject, in this case Brendan, seem larger and more commanding. Last but certainly not least, we have disproportionate or unbalanced framing of subjects. Brick, despite being a micro-budget film, does this better than the majority of modern noirs. Similar to the use of extreme high and low-angle shots, this practice of cinematography conveys relationships between characters. Unbalanced compositions are usually associated with tension, and they'll direct the attention of the viewer by giving greater emphasis to a brighter, darker, larger, or smaller area within the frame. These asymmetrical compositions are used appropriately in the film to portray that two characters are not on even ground. Perhaps one of these characters sees the other as an obstacle, and in other cases, there's simply an unequal dynamic of control at play. For those of you who have yet to see the film, I highly suggest you do so. Apart from its appealing visual attributes, I found that the movie was able to keep me captivated throughout. Its evenly paced and brilliantly written dialogue not only builds character, but it effectively progresses the story. Rian Johnson, despite not having a large body of work, is a talented director, and I think to say that he knew exactly what he wanted to come out of the production of this film would be an understatement. Thank you for watching.
Just a